Hey guys, Chris here again with you. This is the part 2 for the magnifying glass. And so in this one, I'm going to show you guys some little tricks you can do to make this magnifying glass successful without the use of charred materials. So first off, I talked, you can basically burn about anything you want to burn. So if you're going to try to get an ember on a piece of wood, it's a lot easier. So here's a pretty big stick here. It's a lot easier to get an ember if you ditch the big stick, get a little stick. You can hold that up here and get this end glowing pretty good. Now another trick you can do this on bark as well. Get the end of the bark, hold it there for quite a while and get a nice little ember going in that. But a trick you can do to make that a little more effective is to find you some grass, and you'll want to take it in your hand and you just want to roll it up and break that grass up. These aren't really as broke up as fine as I would like them, but they're broke up pretty nice for making little bird's nests. But what you'll do is you take your stick and stick your stick through there, or your piece of bark, whatever you're using, to where it's in the middle, right here. And then you'll take your magnifying glass and get your ember going on that piece of stick and your tenders around it, and once you get it going good enough, you can just keep blowing and blow this here into flame. Now those still take a while to do though. So how can you make it even faster? Okay, here I've got some scrape tinder, and this I did, and you can do this with a rock or stone or something. I just used my knife, and I just took my knife and a stick and scraped it and produced this. This is a little easier to get an ember going in. To make this even better, you want to powderize it. So here is some stick powder in this tube, and you can see here, I'll pour some out in my hand. It's just finer than the scrape tinder. This works even better. Now there's some stuff that works better than wood scrape or wood powder, and that would be bark scrape. So you can see where I was scraping this bark right here, and I created bark scrape. Bark scrape is a finer powder than wood scrape. This stuff will take an ember even quicker than your wood scrape. And to make this even better, you can get bark powder. And bark powder, you can get it a lot of ways. Same with wood powder. You can sand it with a stone, or rasp it, or here's a way that I got it out of the bark, is I stuck my knife in here and just started turning it, basically drilling a hole into it to get some bark powder. And I'm going to show you, because bark powder is the best out of all these I showed you. So we've got a little bit of cloud cover, but I think I've got enough sun that I can get this going for you guys. And so what you'd want to do is take this bark powder or wood powder, whatever you're using, and you want to put it inside your bird nest that you're going to blow into flame. And I hope I've got enough sunlight. We've got more clouds moving in. Make sure I can get this where you guys can see. And we're getting a little more sun. There we go. Now the cool thing about bark tinder is once you get it going, you take that light away and this ember is going to continue to grow. This powder here is essentially the same thing you produce when you're using a bow drill, or if you've got your hearth board here and you're using a stick and you're doing a friction fire this way, you produce this type of powder here. It'll most likely be the stick powder, but bark powder's even better because it's a darker color, so it works better for a magnifying glass. But you can see that it's still, and so all I would do is that, just add that to my, and you want to baby these just like you would your tinder from a bow drill fire. So there you go, guys, and then you just continue to blow that into flame. This is a little bit of a smaller bird's nest for me to be able to do that as successfully as I'd like, but you can see how good that this bark powder works. And see the bark scrape. I'll go ahead and see if I can, still got some decent sun, so I'll show you. This stuff works just as good. It's not as easy because it's not as fine, not as powdery. And now that I'm ready, the sun starts to go away a little bit, but that just goes to show you don't need 100% sunlight. There you go. See that? It's continuing to, that ember's continuing to grow with the bark scrape. And I might have enough light to do the wood powder. This stuff's a lighter color, so with it being slightly shady, it may not work, but we'll give it a shot anyway. So not sure I'm where you guys can see. I don't know if you can notice, but compared to the last two I just did, one, this is taking longer, but if you look at the dot here, it's a lot brighter on this than it is with that bark powder. And I might not have enough direct sunlight to even get there we go. Getting a little bit. Oh, I don't think I got enough sunlight for that one. But you can see how by it being a darker material, it absorbs that light and takes off a lot better. So bark and tree fungus, that works just the same. You need to take your knife and drill into it, into, say horseshoe fungus or something like that, and you'll create a similar powder that's similar in color to the bark, and it works just as good, if not better. So if you're using magnifying glass, you know your color of material does affect your ability to successfully get a fire going in a short amount of time using a magnifying glass. So I hope you guys learned a little bit, and you know, get out there and practice these. These are really handy tools, and what's great about them is, you know, say here's an example, and I actually had this happen to me once. So I was staying out in the woods and I was trying to get a bow drill fire going, and everything was a little bit damp, and it was a little too damp for me to get a nice ember growing inside of that powder. Well, I took that same powder I created, because the heat from using that bow drill had slightly dried it out, and I pulled my magnifying glass out, and it took off every bit as good as it did for you guys here on camera with this powder here. And I had a successful fire where I had just failed with the bow drill. So, you know, magnifying glass is very handy. So, but alright guys, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe, and there'll be more to come. So thank you guys.